Okay, welcome back. It's 6 p.m. and you're back to the Board of County Commissioners public hearings regarding the 2022-2023 budget midterm adjustment. And we recessed from the previous session after finishing general government. Now we're looking at a comprehensive plan docket item CPA 4 capital improvement program. And this will be its own section. And then we'll have an additional section immediately following for open public testimony on anything that was covered today if you didn't have a chance to weigh in at the time that it was covered earlier today. So right back to Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell to address the capital improvements plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Menser. Robin Campbell, Assistant County Manager, and this segment of the public hearings is focused on the capital budget and the capital improvements plan. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who will say a few things about the capital improvements plan, the CIP, and then I'll fill in a little bit of details about the capital budget. So take it away, Andrew.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Give me 1 second to shift some things around. Good evening, Commissioners. Andrew Bond here with Community Planning. I'm joined by numerous county staff who are here to answer any questions related to department-specific projects. The 2023 to 2028 Capital Improvement Program is a 6-year financial plan for capital projects needed to maintain important infrastructure and level of service as the community grows. The CIP is updated annually and fulfills the capital facilities element of the Growth Management Act. Funding sources, project costs, and project descriptions are included in the CIP. Capital projects include transportation facilities, sewer and water infrastructure, solid waste and stormwater facilities, parks and trails, and the county buildings. Planned capital facility projects from schools, fire districts, and other special purpose districts are also reported in the CIP. The CIP is not a budget, but a plan for future action. Project cost and funding sources are aligned with the county budget. The Planning Commission reviewed this item at a work session on August 17th. A public hearing was held with the Planning Commission on September 21st to accept public testimony, and subsequently they voted 9-0 to recommend approval of the 2023 to 2028 CIP. A 60-day notice of the proposed adoption was provided to the Washington State Department of Commerce on September 7th. A SEPA determination of non-significance was issued on September 27th. The board was briefed on July 13th, where department staff from county facilities, parks and trails, water and sewer utilities, storm and surface water, solid waste, and transportation reviewed individual projects in more detail. At a follow-up briefing on October 13th, staff provided the Planning Commission recommendation and requested direction from the board to submit an AI at a public hearing. For this public hearing tonight, staff updated the website prior to the legal notice. The legal notice was issued on November 11th. A web mailer was sent to the community planning email list on November 11th, and a press release was issued on November 23rd. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. As Andrew said, the CIP is not a budget, but we do align our budget with the CIP. And depending on where we're at in the cycle, we align the budget to either the first year or the first and second year. So when we do the biennial budget, it's 2 years. When we're doing the midterm adjustment, the CIP next year starts in 2023, so our 2023 budget is aligned. Total revenue that you see on this slide for the capital budget is $80 million in 2022 and just under $25 million in 2023. The reason that 22 is so high in revenue is the revenue bond that we issued to be able to improve the courthouse campus. The next slide. This is the overview of the capital expenditures. As you see, it's broken down by section. There are only 2 departments that have capital budgets. That's Public Works and Central Services. So you see here the various sections of Public Works. And then you also see the county buildings for the rest of the budget. And this is the plan. In 2022, our best guess is that we're going to spend about $55 million. Next year, about $54 million. And then you see we also note that future years in the CIP amount to about $123 million in capital projects. There are many highlights to note. I'm not going to read through the list. If you go down to the next slide. Jamie, one of the new projects in central services is to provide a UPS, that is uninterrupted power supply unit for emergency services. That's our 911, TCOM 911 center, to ensure that that facility will not go down. And then reappropriations of many projects that we expect to continue next year. And some of them are multi-year projects in central services. In Public Works, there are many highlights. The increased funding for the Fish Passage Enhancement Program, funding for the solid waste transfer station compactor replacement, pump system upgrade for solid waste, a restroom project on the Yelm Rainier Tenino Trail, stormwater utilities, road improvements, just a multitude of wonderful things. Go ahead to the next slide where this continues, that Public Works is putting in place to enhance our community's infrastructure for the benefit of our citizens. So that is the highlight of the capital budget, and we'd be happy to answer any questions about either the CIP or the capital budget.
Anything, Commissioner?
Nobody's in the audience is gonna ask anything, it doesn't look like. I do have one question.
Great.
Of all the items that you've just gone over, is there anything that we haven't covered in a prior work session or an information session or what?
No, not a darn thing in here that the board has not heard in depth, either through the CIP review process or the capital budget review process. You've seen everything that is in these documents.
That was my question. That's it for me.
Multitude of work sessions.
Okay, there's nobody online or in the audience.
Do we have,
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I can't see him. Oh, there he is. Mr. Pettit, questions about or comment? You have 4 minutes regarding capital improvement program.
Okay, really the focus of my question is that when I look under summary of revenue source and I show real estate excise tax and the amount of, let's just round it off and call it $80 million over the next 6 years, that would come out to being about $13 million per year. And currently, it appeared to me like maybe there was even a lower level of REIT money coming in than anticipated. Is there some type of substantial plan as to why that's suddenly going to increase that much more? I mean, if we're doing, let's say, 8 million a year or 9 million a year, that's a long ways away from 80 million in 6 years. Is there an explanation for that?
so the REIT revenue this year is on track, matching the forecast. We anticipate that we'll receive just over 5 million in REIT 1 and the same amount in REIT 2, so roughly $10 million this year in REIT. And future years, while we think that there's going to be a downturn in the next year or two, we do anticipate in the in accordance with the Washington State Economic and Revenue Forecast Council, that REIT will rebound within 3 years and continue in growth. The forecasts reflect conservative growth in REIT, two years of a downturn and then conservative growth in future years. And if the money is not available in the third years and the out years, one of the things we do every year is to adjust our plan to be within the amount of money that we have. So we do think that the plan is realistic as it stands, and we think it's good.
Okay. The only other question I had here was, it was showing a $60,500,000 future bond. Is that during the next 6 years? Is that another bond that's other than the one that was previously issued?
We'd have to look at that. We do not intend to issue bonds beyond the one that we issued this year at this time.
Because it's, you probably find it there in Appendix G on page 5, the question mark on that. So those were the two issues that I had. I have read through a preliminary thing on the general capital facility plan, and if things are used as they're described in the capital facility plan, I have no issues at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Was there anybody else I can't see up there?
I don't,
Sometimes they're hiding it down there.
I don't see anybody else from the public in Zoom.
Rick Thomas, comment, okay. Teresa, okay. Yep, those are all staff members. Okay, very good.
All right.
And that puts us 2 minutes away from being able to start the next section, so let's just hang tight here.
Right. Well, before we move on, I just want to give my appreciation to all of the staff who have turned out for this evening's hearing on the CIP and the capital budget, and all of the work that went into preparing these documents. So thanks to everybody who showed up, both in the room and on screen. So with that, you want to just roll right in? Do we have to wait the 2 minutes?
Let's do 1 more minute.
Oh, one minute.
more minute.
All
And
right.
then we'll launch off on the last piece of tonight's proceedings. Okay, it is not quite there. It's a long minute.
The clock has stopped. Oh, here we go.
All right, here we go. So it's now 6:15. The last piece of tonight's part, we're going to continue tomorrow at 1:30, but we have one more section, which is open public testimony. And this is just essentially for any testimony that did not get given, to allow folks the opportunity to comment on today's general government, law and justice, and capital improvement program pieces. Tomorrow we'll have other pieces and another open session in the evening tomorrow.
That's right.
Nobody is in the boardroom. Mr. Pettit, you got most of yours already in. Did you think of anything else before?
I appreciate that. I do have a general comment since it's for open comments as such. And my general comment has to do with the foreseeable long-term issues the county's facing. The county has a significant trust issue as far as the citizens are concerned. And unless the county takes some action, develops trust, the 1% gain plus growth, which is going to continue to decline for a period of time, is going to continue to hinder the ability for the county to function. In the bigger picture of things, the county needs more revenue than what it has to be operating efficiently. But the county residents, or at least from my perspective, particularly property owners, have very little trust that they're being listened to or considered. And because of that, the concept of some type of levy lift, even for supplemental services, will be remaining very much in question. People need to have confidence that they're truly being listened to, and they don't feel very listened to for the people that I'm hearing from. And as of this point in time, there's some significant reasons why people may continue to build on the mistrust element. And I'm just suggesting that as commissioners, you make sure that the priorities are representing's the word, of the people that you've been elected by, the people that have voted and the ones that are paying taxes. And I just see some significant issues coming up. I'll be looking forward to tomorrow to be involved a little bit with some of those discussions. But you know, it's an annual process. I hope it's more than just we put in our time, we rubber stamp an approval for the county managers, what their plan is, because we don't necessarily know how to correct it. I think it's a good time for you to be starting to ask some questions. And then I think the other part is you're going to have another hearing about revenue source. That's going to be really important for people to know how much more increase in taxes that they're facing and when those can be looked at. So that's my comment for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And
All right,
anything else?
now
we need to
we'll
do?
go into the overview. Before I begin the comments, I would like to provide an update on the county's bond rating or credit rating of the county. We received notice last week, at the end of last week, that Moody's, one of the three international credit raters of entities looking to go into the finance market, has upgraded the county's bond rating from AA2 to AA1, which was great news for the county. And some of the things that Moody noted was strong growth, even in light of a potential softening of the economic cycle, strong fund balances, strong financial management, and conservative budgeting. So those were all noted by Moody's, and those are a credit to the Board of County Commissioners and your management of the finances in this county, along with strong financial policies enacted countywide and conservative financial spending on the part of elected and appointed officials. So we're in a great position here in Thurston, and that's been noted by our bond reviewers. Looking at the overall budget, we do hold this open public meeting in the evening and invite any citizens who are unable to attend our afternoon sessions to come in the evening. This is open for comments on any area of the budget. So I'll start with a very broad overview. This is the combined capital and operating budget. In 2022, we're anticipating revenue of $537.4 million and expenditures of $508.4 million. In 2023, in total, we're anticipating revenue of $422.7 million and expenditures of $515.7 million. And the difference in
Hold on a sec, Robin.
2023, oh,
Somehow or another, I don't believe our material reflects the same as your.
Yeah, because I'm on slide 33, but it's not the same. It's a pie chart.
oh, we moved them around, but all the same slides are in there.
Okay,
So I didn't think I reordered them, but yeah.
You want me to reprint it?
well, no, if we could just figure
I
out
think
which one
there's
we're
just
on.
this one overview, because is this the one that you,
Page 3 is this table in view.
yeah,
Page
it's the same as on page 3.
Yeah.
Page 3 of the packet, you will see this table.
That's 4 from in my packet.
Oh, 4, yeah, page 4.
All right. So it's just a big, broad overview slide. In 2023, expenditures are higher than revenue because we are starting to spend down fund balance. You'll see in the general fund, revenue is 117 million, expenditures not quite 130 million. And that's because we have substantial fund balance in the general fund. Some of our other funds, like the special revenue funds, have substantial fund balances. We are intentionally spending that down with a projection into the future of bringing them more in line with where we think they need to be and using the reserves. So that is the plan. The preliminary operating budget is the next slide. I hope that we're back on track now. Expenditures,
33.
this breaks it down by strategic area. You'll see that overall, law and justice is 23% of the operating budget. Legislative budget, that is the commissioner's office and all of the funds that you manage. It's 19% of the overall budget, 22% towards economic vitality, 6% for general government. Health and Human Services, somehow I don't have a percentage there, but it looks like it's about 30%, maybe not quite. And then internal services, 11%. So the overview. Revenue from all funds mainly is from taxes. And those are property taxes and sales taxes for the vast majority. Other financing sources are intergovernmental revenues. You'll see in 2022, almost 129 million. These are federal and state grants, and most of that money is tied to COVID response. We continue to pull in an extraordinary amount of funds for COVID. Operating expenditures, we did just look at this same breakdown, so I'm not going to repeat that. The capital revenue, as we just saw during the presentation of the CIP and the capital budget, we expect 80 million this year. That in part includes the bond financing for the courthouse remodel, and then next year anticipating just under 25 million in revenue for capital. And the capital expenditures, roughly $54 million a year. A little higher this year, but, and earlier you saw the breakdown of that. In general fund, the revenue, 68% is from taxes. And this is for the vast majority property tax and sales tax. Those are the sources that support the general fund. Then our expenditures in the general fund, law and justice is 73%. This is a little less than usual. General government is usually not 12% of the general fund budget. But while we address COVID and continue to respond to COVID, general government has a slightly larger share. So usually you'd see law and justice closer to 76%, and I'm thinking that when we get past COVID that we'll see it return to that level. This graph shows,
Wait,
stop me anytime.
well, I'm just, the pages aren't matching up with.
I don't see that we have that
We
one
don't-
about
we
the
don't have
law and
some of
justice.
the-
Yeah, if you go back
Oh,
to,
this one was corrected at the,
yeah, because the slide that we have on the general fund operating expenditures.
Yeah, that's the
is
total
off.
budget, yeah.
So, yeah, it's total
It's not
budget,
general
so
fund.
there is an error on that.
Is there any chance we could at least have the same material that you have somehow?
I apologize, commissioners. We will make sure that tomorrow you've got exactly what I have.
Okay, and for any citizen that might want to pick it up, I think we could.
Absolutely, this is what they will receive, and this is what is posted online.
Just becomes a bit confusing, thank you.
Yeah, my apologies. All right, so next, this is the historic trend. And what you see is, as required by law, there is no year when we spend more than the board appropriates in the budget. And that's true of any fund in the county, not just the general fund. But what you also notice is the gap between the budget line in green and the blue bars. The gap is increasing, and that is the amount of reversion that comes back. And in any given year, the county might revert anywhere from 3 to 5%. Our historic average is around 3%. But these last few years, offices and departments have been reverting 8, 9, 10%. And part of it is because we are taking advantage of other funds that are available for our general purposes. But this is how the general fund balance has built up to the extent that it has. This slide shows, questions, Commissioner? Do you have this one?
These slides aren't the same as what we've got. Pardon?
I'm printing new ones right now, Carly's gonna grab.
Okay.
Which slide are you on?
My slide says number 42. It is the historic revenue and expense.
41.
And there's 41
Got it
in your
on
packet.
No, actually, it's
It's not
different
the
one.
same slide.
Yeah, it's got a different
You
graph.
have not
different
had the
graphs
last
on
2 years.
We've got 2021, yeah, that's it.
It only goes through 21. So we wanted to show the 2 years that are
Yours goes to
included in this
23.
budget. Mine does go to 23
Okay,
because
that's
it
what I'm
reflects
trying
the
to get
budget,
Squared away.
right? One of the interesting things.
Let me interrupt you
Yes.
just for a moment, please. If there's any questions as we move forward on this, for anybody that wants to review this, there'll be more new material here available tomorrow, and they can refer back to this YouTube, I think is what we're doing, YouTube. So to go along with what you're covering now on the screen.
Right, and this version is what should be posted on the internet,
Okay.
right? Okay.
So it's a little bit of a gap for the packet that you had because we received information to have those copies ready for you on Friday, which we did. And since then, it has been a couple of updates. So the version that is for the public posted is the current version.
Yes,
My apologies because we'll give you a corrected version today.
Just refer to what's up here.
absolutely. Right. So the only difference between this graph and the one in front of you is I've added the next 2 years that are reflected in the budget. So if you look at this trend, you see the blue line is revenue and the green bars are expenditures. And what you see is Usually, the county spends just at or a little less than the revenue that we collected. Truly a balanced budget in the classic sense. But there are some years where the county spent more than the revenue and basically ate into fund balance. And you see a few of those years, we were right at the revenue amount in 2008 and 2009 during the Great Recession. There was an economic kind of a slowdown, if you will, in 2014. So in 13, you see it up above and then balances out in 2017 and 18. We were spending everything that came in the door. And then starting in 2019, you start to see a gap where the revenue is a good bit more than the expenditures. And that is what it has created a substantial fund balance that you'll see when we look at the slides tomorrow and take a comprehensive look. It's one of the interesting things on this is that we noticed that revenue in 21, 22, and 23, each year, revenue is anticipated to be 117 million, give or take a few 100,000. That's odd. We triple checked the numbers to make sure that that is accurate. We do intend, however, the board is planning to spend more than we bring in revenue in the next 2 years to bring down the fund balance in a planned and thoughtful way. So that is coming, and we'll have more information on that tomorrow. Preliminary budget highlights. This is a midterm, so there are limits to what we allowed offices and departments to request. It covers things like increases in personnel benefit costs, grants, internal service rate adjustments, technical adjustments. We allowed for a carry forward that very few offices or departments took advantage of. This budget includes a placeholder for 2.5% COLA for staff. It is a placeholder because we have not completed collective bargaining with most of our employees. The 2 contracts that are closed are for correction deputies and law enforcement, and this includes the full amount of those COLAs for those departments. The road levy shift is reduced by 250,000 for, I think, the 3rd year in a row. And that will improve the balance in the road fund that will contribute to the stability of the roads in the county. There's an increase for the insurance premiums that you heard about that we pay into the statewide risk pool. And we've funded the purchase of elections equipment. There was quite a bit of money that you'll hear more about tomorrow that has come in for foundational public health. And that will assist not only with the programs, but also shore up financial management in public health. There's funding for 24/7 health services and corrections. There is a pilot program in this budget that you'll hear more about tomorrow to provide food and wraparound services for veterans. We're currently working with the Veteran Advisory Board to shape that program. There is funding in this budget for a literacy grant for the Olympia School District, and this budget creates or supports the creation of the Pattison Lake Management District. So even though it's a midterm budget with limited opportunities, if you will, the board has done some pretty significant things within the money that you had available. The next step, we will have the second round of public hearings tomorrow on economic vitality, transportation, public health, and the revenue review. Then you have work sessions scheduled on Wednesday and Thursday to do final deliberations and set your final budget and review all of the resolutions that go with the adoption that will happen on December 16th. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Edwards, anything?
I do not.
Commissioner Mejia, I don't know if you can hear us. If you do, any questions?
Stop sharing, Jamie.
And we do have a member of the public.
Okay, then we will, is that it for today then?
That's all for tonight.
Okay, we've covered that. We're going to be in recess.
No, we have a member of the public on Zoom that I'd like to ask if Ms. Phyllis Farrell would like to provide
Yes.
testimony
You
this
said there
afternoon.
wasn't anyone on Zoom, sorry.
Yes, thank you. I'm
Please.
sorry, I was a little late for the public comment. I had trouble finding the Zoom link, but greetings, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight regarding the 2023 midterm budget. My name is Phyllis Farrell. I'm a resident of Sunwood Lakes in unincorporated Thurston County. I've testified before you previously advocating for the adoption of the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. Thank you for your commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adopt measures that promote climate resiliency. An important step was hiring a climate manager, and we are pleased and have high hopes for Rebecca Harvey's leadership. I'm glad to see you've included a budget item for climate mitigation and adaptation projects. I believe it's $268,000. However, that is the smallest budget for climate action of the 4 jurisdictions, even though Thurston County has the largest budget. Lacey's is spending approximately $700,000. Olympia has budgeted $650,000, and Tumwater plans to spend $325,000. There's a combined population of approximately 135,000 people, contributing a total of $1,675,000 from those jurisdictions. I suggest it would be more appropriate for Thurston County to drastically increase the budget for climate resiliency work. Thurston County has a bigger population than the 3 city jurisdictions, and actually a proposed 1.5 million would be appropriate and come close to matching the commitments of the city jurisdictions. So please consider aligning the budget with the values expressed in the TCMP. TCAT, or Thurston Climate Action Team, has advocated a $3 million budget needed to adequately fund the climate projects necessary to meet the TCMP goals. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And I believe that concludes our public testimony, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
Okay?
then we're going to be in recess until 1:30 p.m.
Recess
tomorrow.
until 1:30 tomorrow. Yep,
Thank you.
thank you.